Welcome back to this week's winning episode of the Goonery. Who would have thought 7-point underdogs, Chicago Bears, in a literal flood, came out at Soldier Field, down at half, put up 19 unanswered, and take down the 49ers in the new regime's first game. And Brandon, I have to say, it was not pretty under any circumstances, but a win's a win. They looked a lot better given the conditions on the field, given the circumstances, and who they were playing, a lot better than I think anyone ever could have expected. And you've seen the media reeling and saying, "Oh, well, Trey Lance, he's inexperienced too. It was a monsoon." They had to deal with the same exact conditions. I don't care. A win's a win, and Chicago Bears, after 1 week, are tied for first place in the NFC North.
You basically took what I was going to say, and it's the funny thing to me. I've seen all week so far that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, 49ers played in bad conditions. That's why they look so bad. That's why Trey Lance looked so bad." I'm sorry. Was it one team that took the field, or was it two teams that took the field? You got to remind me.
It's like it magically stopped raining and the field was dry anytime the Bears stepped on the field, right? On the offensive side of the football. It's almost like the rookie holder, got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that I've never seen before for taking a towel onto the field and wiping down a little patch of grass. I mean, in a world of idiocy, that might have been one of the dumbest things. It's just like objectively hilarious how stupid he thought that towel was going to make a difference at that point in time for the hold.
I will give Trey Gill credit in this regard. However, he's a rookie punter, probably had no idea that was even a rule. I mean, granted, I think at least 65% of the league doesn't even know that's a rule. But he saw the writing on the wall that Kyrell Sampson was going to miss 2 extra points. So maybe he had the right idea. So good on him. But outside of that, we saw a case with 2 things. Number one, on the 49er side of things, when it was announced that Jimmy G was going to resign on a restructured contract, I said, uh-oh, not good for Trey Lance. Because if you want to talk about somebody that wanted a vote of confidence, was Trey Lance. And if that was the case, Jimmy G was going to be shipped off to somewhere else. He didn't get that. And I heard rumblings that he wasn't very happy about Jimmy G being resigned, because that tells me that whenever it gets bad for Trey Lance, and if week 1 is an indication of how things are going to go going forward, yeah, Jimmy G is going to be the starting quarterback. And you can make the argument that if Trey Lance does not start that game, monsoon or not, Jimmy G is probably going to have the 49ers at 1-0. So that's from the 49ers side. From the Bears side, we could go 1-16 throughout this entire season. 1-15, excuse me. But if there's one thing that I saw was everything that we were talking about since June or July.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way this team is going to be as bad as the media is going to paint us to be. Because when you just look of how things were so much different in the second half to the first half, you can't point out 5 instances in the Matt Nagy era that has happened. So considering that, you can't say this team is going to be so bad that they'll lose 15, 16 games. I'm sorry, I don't see it. And considering it was a monsoon, we didn't get to see the full potential of Justin Fields. However, we did get to see him make some really, really crucial plays that ended up winning the game. Granted, the defense kept them in the game for as long as they could. But at the end of the day, you still got to make some points. And Justin Fields did that with Dante Pettis and Equanimeous St. Brown, the guys that people said that they are not reliable weapons and they wouldn't start on many football teams. And guess what?
They wouldn't.
He made it work. Made it work.
Okay. I'm going to give a shout out to a group who a lot of people did not expect anything from. The offensive line.
Yes.
I mean, who do we want to start with on the offensive line? If we're being completely honest.
Larry Borom.
Yeah, I mean, Bosa complimented him after the game, and that is gotta be a good feeling for you when you have
Oh,
one of the
yes.
game's elite pass rushers tapping you on the back, telling you, "Hey, nice job." And someone else I want to talk about because we've been tooting this horn for a while. Tevin Jenkins was the 8th graded guard in football this week. He has been playing the position for less than a month. And I understand people were kind of freaking out because he was rotating in and out with Lucas Patrick. If you were paying attention, they were kind of doing that across the entire offensive line. It wasn't just Tevin Jenkins. People just were kind of freaking out because, oh, it's Tevin Jenkins. God,
Mhm.
that guy. I understand the rushing numbers weren't gaudy by any stretch of the imagination this week. The passing numbers obviously even worse. But they did enough to let him win. And at the end of the day,
Yep.
that's all that matters. And speaking of the running, I think the Bears had in total about uh 90 or so yards on the ground. I mean, it wasn't good.
Mhm.
Is Khalil Herbert coming for that
Ah.
starting job?
That was gonna be my next point. And I love David Montgomery. I love everything about his game. I love his running style. I think he is a running back that would thrive in the past era of football. He would thrive. But I thought the rumblings about his fit in the offense was so ridiculous, but now we're starting to see it. And here's the thing: I get the Khalil Herbert love that he's being given, and truthfully, I think he's going to get a lot more carries because of it. And I think that game was kind of a microcosm of what's coming for Treston Ebner as well. Because let's look at it like this: when the first preseason game happened, Treston Ebner was making cutbacks. He looked fast. He looked
Mhm.
deceptive. The only thing that separates Herbert and Ebner and Montgomery is the blocking. If you can't block in today's NFL, you can't
Mhm.
pick up the blocks. You're not going to be given playing time. You want to know the perfect example of that? Cam Makers gave up 4 rushes, and they said we're not
Yeah.
playing you today, and they pissed off a lot of fantasy members. But that's just the way it goes. So I do think there's going to be a very quiet competition being played on throughout the season. And unfortunately, because I love David Montgomery, I think that unfortunately is going to be his undoing. The fact that he's really not a fit in an offense that is going to be based off of
Mhm.
speed is really going to cost them. And if that means Khalil Herbert is going to be number 1 back, I mean, I'm not mad at it at all because we saw these flashes last year when
Mhm.
he took over for Montgomery. I was like, yo, I don't miss Montgomery that much. I'm going to be
I
honest.
don't think anyone really did at that point in time. And it's not like Herbert's numbers were out of this world. He averaged 5 yards a carry, and it's on a relatively small sample size. It was 9
Mhm.
carries, 45 yards. That's a good day. Don't get me wrong. That's a good day. He punched one in as well with a
Or
touchdown.
backup, too.
Oh, absolutely. I think the bigger story here is not the fact that Khalil Herbert had 9 carries for 45 yards. I think it's the fact that Dave Montgomery had 17 carries for about, what was it, 26 or 27 for under
About.
2 yards a carry. That's the real story here. And I don't know if it almost seemed as if just watching the game that Khalil Herbert's a better decision maker almost when hitting the
Yeah.
hole. And he's not as hesitant. I'm not going to say Montgomery is a hesitant runner because he's not, in my opinion, but Herbert just has a little bit more sense of urgency when he gets the ball in his hands almost.
And I think a lot to do with it is the difference in speed.
It honestly probably is that initial burst off the snap. You're probably
Yeah.
100% correct. And I don't know what that means for David Montgomery because I've had people in the past, I've heard it. I'm sure you've probably heard similar rumblings that David Montgomery and Jordan Howard are very similar players, which I don't agree with,
No, not at all.
but their careers are going to end up kind of looking the same here in Chicago, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, though. In rebuilds like this, you're going to need guys like Khalil Herbert. It's
Yes.
those guys that we're being honest, you didn't expect anything really out of Khalil Herbert last year, did you?
No, not at all.
Because I know I didn't, and
I think he's going to make the roster.
neither did I. And he was a pleasant surprise when Montgomery went down, and he's going to be a pleasant surprise this year. And he's going to be one of those names across the league this year that people are like, oh, Khalil Herbert, the guy, he's the future of the Bears, future of the Bears.
Yep.
And then he'll probably end up sucking when he gets the full-time starting job. And that's just the way
Right.
things go. But there were flashes everywhere on this offense. And you can talk about, you could go on and on. The amount of rookies on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, that came up and just showed out in week one in just horrible conditions up against a more talented team, that has to make this new regime feel really good early on about their decisions they made this offseason.
One thing really stuck out to me because I feel like every rookie flashed.
Mhm.
Every rookie that took the field flashed. There was one thing in particular that wowed the absolute hell out of me. Dominic Robinson, when he came out of college, was all speed. He would beat you. He would beat you with his legs.
Mhm.
And one thing that he did on Sunday was work with the hands. I'm gonna tell you something. If he is consistent with working with his hands, Dominic Robinson could flip with having 10 sacks this year. He is that talented to
I agree.
where you are paying so much attention to Robert Quinn and you forget that Travis Gibson is on the roster too. But he's the guy you really got to worry about. And that's a crazy thing because you got a guy that had damn near 20 sacks
All
last
pro
year.
last year. All
He was an
pro.
all-pro last year. And true, he could take a step back this year. But would it really matter if Dominic Robinson is going to perform like that?
Hey,
I don't think so.
2 QB hits and a sack and a half in your first game. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Not bad at all.
If you ask me. And I mean, just that defensive side of the ball, there's just a lot of hope. Whether it's Brisker, Gordon. I mean, I love the way Brisker played this week.
Brisker
Being
is
honest, he is going to be so good, and just that combination. And I might be crazy for even saying this. I think the combination of him and Eddie Jackson has the potential to be really special this year. I don't know about you, but it just kind of seemed watching. I couldn't tell you his stats. Just watching, it seemed like Eddie Jackson was moving with a little bit more sense of urgency than he has the last 2 years. Now, I don't know if it's like he feels like there's a fire lit under his ass by the new regime. I know he's been disappointed. He's publicly said he's disappointed in himself the last few years, but anyone can say that. He got his payday, and I know a lot of guys, when they get that big payday, they tend to kind of coast. But he's young enough where he's going to want another payday. And I think this year, I would not be surprised if he earns himself another payday.
It is crazy too because the defensive minds that Chicago had brought in after Vic Fangio, whether it be Chuck Pagano or Sean Desai, they weren't bad defensive minds. But it always seemed as though that Eddie Jackson just wasn't doing what Eddie Jackson was supposed to do. Be the center fielder and be in close coverage types of plays on short yard situations or third downs. And look what happens on a third down, he gets that interception. And truthfully speaking, I really think he is such a guy that really looks for interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the crux of his game. The fact he got that one in the point of the game that it was, that is a massive weight off his shoulders to the point where we could see rookie Eddie Jackson all over again. And I tell you, combining with Brisker, because they're two different kinds of safeties. Combined with that, I mean, this is the reason why you go out and get two guys in the secondary. Because last year, that play's not being made by Deshaun Gibson. That play's not being made by Deion Bush. Like this is why defense. I know defense is kind of a lost art in today's game. I totally understand. But at the end of the day, you're still going to need some guys on that defense to make some plays for you. And we saw it with the Buffalo and Los Angeles game. Do you think that the game would have been impacted much less if Von Miller wasn't a Bill? I mean, come on. This stuff happens. And this is why you're claiming for a wide receiver. I totally get it. I was one of those guys. I was very confused. But you go on the field and you see why those guys are drafted in the positions they are drafted in. And you're like, you know what? Those are good building blocks. What if we get more?
Yeah. And kind of shifting away from the X's and O's, you said building blocks. And I feel like all offseason, since the Poles hiring, since the Eberflus hiring, we kind of talked about the fact that a culture needed to be built. A new culture needed to be created here. And moving on from the Matt Nagy era of, BU, because we all know that BU was a bunch of bullshit, a crock of shit under Matt Nagy, because the only thing he wanted was everyone to be Matt Nagy. End of the day, that's what it came down to.
Yep.
This team and organization, I mean, yes, it sucks hearing that the McCaskey family has a succession plan in place, the fact that it'll always be a family business. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Nothing will change if they're still in charge. But with Poles and Eberflus, these guys just seem like they care. They know they're not the most talented team. They're scrappy. And they just seem like they care about each other. And I am such a meatball. But Justin Fields giving out 2 game balls to Eberflus and a soaked Ryan Poles in a suit, in a tie, that got me going. I don't know why, but that got me going. And it seems like the rest of the internet was cool with it too, which just surprised me because that's kind of, let's just hypothetically say, the Broncos won on Monday night in Seattle, and Russell Wilson gave out game balls to their GM and Nathaniel Hackett. I don't think we'd see a bigger clowning on the internet than I think we'd be seeing a bigger clowning than he's getting for that TikTok right now of what he cares about: God, his family, football.
Oof, that's rough. I try to defend him. I can't defend that.
It's hard at this point with us, but I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, that was Mitch Trubisky right now and not Justin Fields. I think Mitch Trubisky would be getting ripped for that right now. So I think I think this game was like I don't even, what's the way to put this? It's almost, I'm not going to say put the Bears back. It did not put the Bears back on the map because they are still so far away from the map, but
it's a building block, man. It's a building block.
I think this shows too that the Bears this year are going to be a better version of the Lions last year, if that makes any sense. Because
they got a better quarterback.
They do have a better quarterback. I agree. They do have a better quarterback. But they were in almost every game they played. No team looked forward to playing them. And I really genuinely think people are going to see the Bears on their schedule the rest of this year and just be like, fuck, I don't want to play them. And they're going to be more talented, but they know that team is more likely than not going to go out there and play harder than them. And hey, everything I'm saying right now about how hard they're playing, the culture they're building, it could come back and blow up right in my face. And I am drinking the week 1 Kool-Aid for as long as I possibly can.
Yep.
But building blocks, that's all that we wanted this year. That's all either of us wanted this year. Was Fields the best? No, but he played well when it mattered. He made plays that other quarterbacks in the past with this franchise would not have made. And overall, I'm feeling a lot better than I did heading into the season. I expected 4 to 6 wins. I don't know. I don't think 7 to 8's out of the realm of possibility anymore, if we're being honest.
I want to be on your side so bad, but we're going to Green Bay this Sunday.
So we can get into that. I don't think they're going to win that game. I don't. Let's be completely honest. I know a lot of people right now. I'm not drinking that much Kool-Aid where I think that they're going to go into Green Bay on Sunday night and beat a pissed off Aaron Rodgers. But I think that game's going to be closer than people expect. I think at most it'll be a 10-point game. And I think it's either going to go one of 2 ways. The Bears lose by 10 or less, or they lose by about 35. And Aaron Rodgers throws 6 touchdowns and reminds everyone that he's the most talented quarterback to ever play the position. And yeah, he seems disinterested right now, but when Rodgers wants to flip that switch, it's a scary thing. And he always wants to flip that switch against the Bears, man.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, because what is Aaron Rodgers' definition of flipping the switch? Is it popping a perk? Is it going on a spiritual trip or whatever? And that could be that. Lord knows that could be anything. But here's my thing. In all seriousness, I think the Bears have a better chance in this regard. I know Aaron Rodgers has kicked that ass for so many years, but over the past couple of years, there's been one reason why he's kicked that ass so much. Devontae Adams. And guess what? Devontae Adams ain't there no more. And granted, I would say our secondary is going to be tested this week. Very much so. You got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But if guys are not getting open, then what are you going to do? And it comes down to this, ultimately. If Al Lazard plays, he's so clearly going to be the number one. He is not quite the threat that Devontae Adams is, but if he's definitely a deep threat that you do have to worry about. But if you go outside of that, you can't let Christian Watson beat you. Sammy Watkins, at this point of his career, I don't see him beating anybody.
Real quick, how old do you think Sammy Watkins is? Because I was amazed when I looked this up the other day.
He's 32, right? 30?
Nope.
20, is he younger?
29.
God, when did he get in the league?
2014. He was the 4th overall pick. I would have guessed, I'm not even joking you, I would have guessed Sammy Watkins was 35 with that. But before I looked that up, I thought he was legitimately 34, 35. Maybe I'm confusing him with Kelvin Benjamin. I don't know. I mean, both of them are a Popeye's biscuit away from being tight ends, but Kelvin Benjamin, 31. Okay, so not that 2-year difference. But
that's still insane. That's still insane.
Both of them drafted in 2014 as well.
You know what? I feel like football fans have aged the hell out of Sammy Watkins because he's been injured so damn much.
Honestly,
it's got to be it.
He's that guy where it's, if only he could stay healthy. If only he could put together a healthy stretch here. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. His first couple years in the league with the Bills before he was traded, they were pretty solid.
He was electric when he was with the Bills. Like, we forget because he was always injured. Bills were bad, but he was electric when he first got there.
And if there's any quarterback who will reinvigorate him, it'll be Rodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, and it will, because I'm sure Sammy Watkins this year is going to have a week where it's 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week, if we're being completely honest. And
you want to know why it won't be? Because Randall Cobb still plays for the Packers. We can't forget that. I don't give a damn how old he is. Like I feel like on his deathbed he would cook the Bears.
Yeah, and I will say though, the thing that scares me the most about the Packers nowadays, it isn't even Aaron Rodgers at this point. It's not. It's their 2-headed monster they have in the backfield.
Yeah,
because I mean, Aaron Jones is, for my money, as good of a pass catching back out of the backfield as anyone in the league, and he could still run it between the tackles as a top 10 back. Then you have AJ Dillon, who's just a Mack truck, and he would be started like a bell cow, Derrick Henry type of bell cow, getting 25 touches a game on almost any other team in the league. And that just scares me, if we're being honest, because he'll just wear you down. And that's when Rodgers will kill you after that with the play action.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know how he is with the play action. So I'm interested to see, though, because it's interesting. The Bears, obviously, the 49ers have a better pass rush than the Packers. And the offensive line handled it relatively well, I would say. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bears receivers fare against the DBs of the Packers this week.
That's a concern of mine.
Because Darnell Mooney, who's our supposed clear-cut number 1 receiver, which I agree he is, he got shut down against the Niners. And I know everyone's been clowning Alexander because Justin Jefferson clowned him on a couple routes on Twitter. He's still as good of a cornerback as anyone in the league. Like
Justin Jefferson's going to be
in a league of his own. He will cook any cornerback.
any quarterback. He's going to be
cooking
every
prime
elite
Revis.
cornerback most worst game of the year. So that's not a
No, and that scares me though, because I still don't know what to expect of this Bears receiving core. And I don't think anyone does. I don't think the coaching staff knows what to expect, if we're being honest.
But the funny thing about that is, let's say if indeed Darnell Mooney gets shut down, I personally wouldn't mind having Dante Pettis being the leading receiver. I wouldn't mind Byron Pringle being that guy either. Equinemius St. Brown could get open down the field. That's not an issue. And mind you, we even bring up Cole Kmet, who didn't get involved last week. So, listen, Darnell Mooney may not have that great of a game. That's fine. But if someone's going to tell me that Dante Pettis is going to be the leading receiver, I would tell you that we will put up a good amount of points.
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't think Dante Pettis is as bad as most people. And when he was on the 49ers, he was a guy, another one like Sammy, not to the extent of Sammy Watkins, but it's, man, if Dante Pettis could just stay healthy, he could probably be someone.
Absolutely.
So there's no saying that can't happen this year. I'm not necessarily expecting it. And if you are the Bears coaching staff, what are you happy with this week going into Green Bay, primetime, Sunday night? Are you happy with losing by less than two scores? Probably, obviously not. But what is your threshold for embarrassment, I should say?
Man, losing by more than 20, because in my opinion, with how motivated this team is coming off coming off a win, you can't go out there and lay an egg. I don't give a damn who the receivers are. You cannot lay an egg. So anything over 20, I would say is embarrassing. But if you keep it within 10 points, or you lose exactly by 10 points, no one's going to be upset. I mean, everybody would expect it, but if the Bears lose by 10, you know what the real story is going to be. Why didn't the Packers blow out the Bears like they always should? So it's going to look bad on them. It's going to look bad on them more than anything.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And if they lose by less than 2 scores, I will be a very, very happy man.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the fan base will be too, because it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a loss, but no one's expecting wins at this point. If Justin Fields can just look competent, if he can look competent against them in primetime and just not embarrass himself to the point where he's getting the Mitch Trubisky treatment. And I don't think it's going to happen, because Justin Fields is so much more talented than Mitch. End of the day, he's a better quarterback. And he has a coaching staff who's behind him. So he's not in a position to fail. That's how I look at it. And nothing this coaching staff does this week and what they did all offseason is they're not going to put him in a position to fail. And they're going to do every last thing they can to make him a success.
If I'm Luke Getsy, I know the monsoon changed the game plan for the Bears last week, but I'm telling Justin Fields, you put your balls in that wheelbarrow, you fucking run with it. I know they got some good defensive plays in there, but I'm telling you now, if the Bears somehow win this game, they're going to be in contention for a wild card. That is how important, how just hefty of a win it would be. That if you want to tell me that a 1-0 Bears team goes into Lambeau with a healthy Aaron Rodgers and beats them, my expectations just went up at least by 10. And I don't even think I'll be wrong for that. As crazy as that sounds, and I am the biggest pessimist you'll ever meet. However, if you go into Lambeau and you win, that is a very, very, very big deal, considering what the schedule looks like for the Bears and who you just defeated when you haven't defeated them since 2018.
Yeah. And if they find a way to get a win here, after the Packers, they have Texans at home, the return of Lovey, which is hilarious to me that he's coming back as a NFL head coach in 2022. Giants on the road, which again, another very winnable game. And then,
I should go to that game.
oh yeah,
I should go to that
oh
game.
yeah, oh
We'll
yeah,
see.
for sure. And then Vikings on the road. I mean, I'm not optimistic about that one, if I'm being honest. But if you were to tell me that by the end of October, the Bears will most likely have a better record than the Dallas Cowboys, if you would have told me that a week ago, I wouldn't have believed you. But as of right now, man, with how that went down week one, I guess we kind of shift in towards the rest of the league. But the Cowboys are going to be really, really, really bad this year, man. And I know it's unfortunate Dak getting hurt, but even before he got hurt, man, they looked like absolute dog water. Like it was your CeeDee Lamb had one catch the entire game. Zeke looked horrible. Tony Pollard looked horrible. The rest of their receivers looked horrible. And then Dak gets hurt. They're bringing Cooper Rush, the only other quarterback on that roster. And end of the day, they're coached by Mike McCarthy. I mean, he will be gone by November.
You know, we have the same takeaway, but I'm gonna take in a different direction. I don't hate the Cowboys. Are they fun to make fun of? Yes, because just for reasons.
I don't hate them either. I'm not one of those people who hates them. I just get sick of watching them in prime time every other week. And I think we're going to see some games flex now with all the.
Oh, 1,000%.
Oh, I'm okay with that. That's my big takeaway.
But yeah, the whole primetime thing, like I love watching them in primetime because it just feels of importance when they're in primetime, regardless of whether they're good or not, which is sad, but it's true. But there's this really big thing about the Cowboys organization that bothers me to no end, and we saw with Dak Prescott before he got hurt who he was throwing to. I asked one of my friends, he's a diehard Cowboys fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had this discussion on the show not too long ago. And I asked my boy to name any receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. He couldn't do it. Yeah. And granted, that could be a reflection of Michael Gallup being injured and James Washington being injured. I totally get it. But this seems to be a very, very sickening trend about the Cowboys every year, where it's either they have bad luck, which you really can't control, but they don't surround their franchise quarterback with pieces and say, oh my God, this is so unacceptable. You know who we saw this with? We saw this with Tony Romo. Tony Romo was the biggest scapegoat in NFL history. You can't convince me otherwise. He was an incredible quarterback that got saddled with less than weapons and a little bit of bad luck too. Literally, you're about to see that with Dak Prescott. If Noah Brown is your second wide receiver, you failed your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, who you paid right off of coming off an injury, who looked pretty damn good last year, by the way. And now you have Cooper Rush. And the crazy thing is, right, you only carry one quarterback going into the game when all of a sudden, magically, Dak Prescott ends up on the injury report before the game.
Yep.
And you carry one quarterback? Really? Listen, I know I'm not the only one who feels very strongly about Jerry Jones and how shit of an owner he is. But if we have to have a discussion about how much he puts his quarterbacks in bad positions every single year, I get this bad luck that's in between, but if you are not stacking your quarterback, your franchise quarterback with weapons, what are you doing? When was the last free agency? Think about it. I've been alive 25 years. I forgot how old you are, but let's
22, close enough.
22, okay. Give me 1 year where the Dallas Cowboys have been major players in free agency. I will wait.
I can't do it. And that's a team who, if I might be off here, but when the Forbes lists come out every single year with the most valuable franchises in sports, correct me if I'm wrong, the Cowboys are always top three. Always top three. Yep. NFL at a bare minimum, top 10 in all American sports, like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. I mean, the Buccaneers didn't even look that good. If we're
They
being
didn't.
completely honest, they did not look that great. You could tell that Tom Brady probably having marriage problems at home right now, for being completely honest. And my other big takeaway from that game is I don't know what the TB12 method when it's like run by Brady and it's not just from a book, like when Brady's the one teaching you what it actually looks like, but it looked like he led Julio Jones to the fountain of youth, man.
Oh my God.
Like, did
It
not
was
have that
scary.
one on my bingo card, but I guess I should have expected it.
I mean, I forgot what number he is, but I saw that
I think he's
random ass
4. I think he's number
he
4.
if he that's a disgusting number. But anyways,
It is.
I saw I'm like, who is that running like that? I know it ain't no damn Julio Jones. I know it. Listen, if if Brady gets into form with him as the second wide receiver, considering Chris Godwin, we don't know. You have Mike Evans and Julio Jones, if he can stay healthy on either side. I mean, good Lord have mercy. And the
I hope
funny
that.
thing is, Scotty Miller, who presumably was Tom Brady's Wes Welker,
Mhm.
he didn't even play. He wasn't even active. He
Nope.
wasn't even active.
Nope.
So that's kind of scary. But even though considering all that, I still think they lose in New Orleans to Sunday. But
I agree.
going forward, that's kind of scary if you really think about it for the rest of the league.
Yeah. And I mean, while on the topic of New Orleans, good come from behind victory. I mean, if we're being honest, they should not have been in a position where they were losing that game at any point, if you ask me. But Jameis Winston, I know people like to rip on him. He is not as bad as people make him out
He's
to
not.
be. And he's also the funniest motherfucker this league has ever seen, man. Jameis, when you went into the blue tent, where did it hurt? Oh, it hurt everywhere. Pain everywhere. I mean, just knowing that he was not trying to be funny either. That's the best part about him. You know it's unintentional. You see the video of him from right before week 1 talking about how the body is symmetrical.
Yeah, I was like, what in the hell is he? Is he's on Aaron Rodgers method or what? I don't
He's
know
like,
what we're talking about.
your upper body, you got your wrist. Your lower body, you got your ankles. And he's like acting like it's the most groundbreaking thing. It's like he's talking. It's like he just invented the wishbone offense. He's talking about both his wrists are the same, his hips and his shoulders are the same. I mean, there's a Twitter account out there for all you interested. Jameis 1 of 1. It's 1 of 1 on and off the field because man, he's something. I love Jameis Winston so much, man. And he's just entertaining. And as dumb as it
Very.
sounds, like the LASIK eye surgery worked for him, I think. If we're being honest.
I know I predicted the Saints to win the Super Bowl, but I feel like it's a need at this point just to get that post-game interview with Jameis after winning the championship. I need it. I absolutely need it. And not just that. I need the pre-game speech. I know because I know it's going to be him. It's going to be him. I need that pregame speech from him. I need him to win the Super Bowl while balling out. I need that interview after the game. I need it for meme purposes. I need it for laughter purposes. I need it in general. I know you are just going to be stuck to the TV. And honestly, I'm right there with you.
I mean, if Jameis Winston is accepting the Super Bowl MVP trophy on the stage and they ask him where he's going, he's not saying Disney World. What do you think he's saying? He's probably going to the Crab Shack or something.
Or if he and the one thing that he will do to lose me is do that damn
Eat a W.
God forbidden in the W thing. It would be the most disgusting thing, especially after touching the Super Bowl trophy, which everybody had touched at that point.
So just on the topic of the Southern divisions, we'll go over to the AFC South. I thought this was one of the funnier stories out of the weekend. Not a single team in that division came out of week 1 with a win, and that includes 2 of their own teams playing each other with a tie between the Texans and the Colts. And Lovie Smith kind of came out and said, yeah, we probably should have played for the win. Lovie Smith pretty much admitted to blame for the tie. And I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. If I'm in that locker room, I don't like hearing that.
Yeah.
I don't like hearing that at all. And the AFC South is just gonna be really bad, man. Like it's gonna
I,
be even worse
oh,
than we thought, I think.
I mean, Matt Ryan didn't look good against Houston. He did not look good. Davis Mills played a Davis Mills game, very game manager type of thing. Expected. Jacksonville's still going to be bad this year. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not sure what kind of improvements he's going to make, but it's funny how you just do not hear anything about his struggles. That last interception he threw to seal the game was so egregious. And imagine if Justin Fields made that throw, how crazy the media would be after him. I tell you, the South, I mean, any divisional games, do you even watch it?
No.
Do you
And
just want to waste it? Why would you want to waste your time even watching any team from that division?
I actually have a take about Trevor Lawrence. I legitimately think if Clemson did not win that national championship his freshman year, I don't think we'd be talking about Trevor Lawrence as the shoe-in number one overall pick for God knows how many years, because he hasn't improved, if we're being honest, since then, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I think his peak was as a freshman, and don't get me wrong, I would take that peak. I would take that peak, absolutely. But you have not seen him make any improvements, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I'm not watching many Jaguars games. I'm fully upfront about that. I'm not tuning in, watching Trevor Lawrence's development. But from what I have seen, it looks like I'm watching him at Clemson still. And you can't play at Clemson speed anymore, man. You were drafted the first overall pick for a reason, got a boatload of money, and we've seen it with the Jaguars. They're not afraid to cut bait with early first round quarterbacks. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's going to happen with Trevor Lawrence, because the talent is there. It is there. It's just a matter of unlocking it, I think. And I do think Doug Peterson is going to help him make strides this year, but I don't know, man. I'm not hitting the panic button yet if I'm a Jaguars fan, but I'm officially nervous, I would say.
You have to be, especially like we are living proof that coaching matters. Our team suffered through that. Trevor Lawrence did not perform well because he had horrible coaching at his disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Doug Peterson, I don't think Doug Peterson was ever a bad coach.
No, me either.
But if you do not take strides with him coaching you up, there is a problem.
Yeah.
And you know what? If that improvement does not come this year, he has one more year being a starting quarterback in this league. One. And it's not like it was Mitchell Trubisky where he was a passenger but still made the plays, which is why he's the starter at Pittsburgh. Trevor Lawrence has not guided Jacksonville to any meaningful wins. The most meaningful win that Trevor Lawrence has had in his career was knocking out the Colts in week 18 last year. So let's keep that to perspective. You wasn't competing for anything. You were completely out of it at that point. So let's just say if that is the case this year, year 3 got to be it, right? It got to be.
Yeah. I don't really. If you don't take strides under Doug Peterson, it's a you problem, and I think that's a conclusion that a lot of people will come to. It's only week 1 though. We'll see. But my other big takeaway from week 1 was, we're going to go back to the Thursday night game from last week. Are the Bills that good, or did the Rams kind of, are they going to suffer from a Super Bowl hangover? And is Stafford's elbow an actual issue? Because I know people are trying to make it seem like it's not, but tendonitis in your throwing elbow, when you're a quarterback who relies on arm strength and being able to put zip on that ball, that matters, man. That matters a lot more than people want to admit. And crazy stat, this is the first time in his tenure as a head coach, Sean McVay has been under 500, and
Yeah, I
that is one
saw
of the
that.
crazier stats I've seen in a while.
And you know what? First of all, I think it's both. I think it's both. The Bills are that good, but the Rams aren't as good as you think. And here's the deal. Unfortunately, Stafford has gotten to that Aaron Rodgers type of mindset where he really only sees one guy.
Yeah.
And that is what's really going to affect him. Now, you signed Allen Robinson in free agency. And Allen Robinson looked like a guy that just was not interested. Where have I seen this before? This was a guy that we thought he was just not playing to his full potential because he wanted to get paid. But you look at some of the blocks he was throwing, some of the routes he was running, and the corner throw that Stafford
yelled at McVay.
Yes,
He's
he
not running.
didn't jump for the ball. Listen, I don't know if this is going to be a continuous thing, but let's say it is. I would have never let Odell leave Los Angeles after that game. Hell no. You're going to need those weapons. And I feel like they have a lot more issues than we think. And the offensive line, not good. Granted, you go against Von Miller. Von Miller is going to make any offensive line look bad. Totally get it. But let's say if the Atlanta Falcons have the same success that the Bills did this Sunday, you probably should be concerned if you're a Rams fan because, I understand winning the Super Bowl, that's the main goal. Finally got it done, but what's next? Stafford's not getting any younger. He's not getting any healthier. So what are you going to do to help him out?
Yeah, I don't know because the future is not bright for this team, if we're being completely honest, with how they've mortgaged the future to win that Super Bowl. And I get it. It paid off.
It paid off.
I don't care how bad you are for us 5-6 year stretch. You have a Super Bowl because of that. You accept that as a fan. And I think, not that there's many of them, I think any diehard Rams fan will be okay with that decision.
Yeah.
And I just don't know where you go as if you're the Rams right now, because that's as bad as they're going to look all year. Let's be completely honest. They will.
I will hope so.
If they look any worse than that at any point this year, yikes, because that is as bad as I have seen the Rams look since Jared Goff has been there.
Yeah. The game did not feel close at all.
No, there was never.
And just a thing, it was tied at halftime.
Yeah.
You don't even think it was.
No. Yeah. I also think, just on the topic of the NFC West, I just think the NFC West is going to be really bad too.
It's going to be bad. If Geno Smith was the highlight of your division for the week, then yeah, that something is not right there.
All right, we talked about the Jameis Winston quote of everything hurting. Geno Smith had the quote of the weekend, though.
Oh, 1,000%. That's a yearbook quote if I ever heard it.
Everyone wrote me up, but I didn't write back. Like, how long has he been sitting on that one?
Shit. He said, well, as soon as I got names started, let me jot that down real quick, just in case anything happened. Just in case if I beat their past franchise quarterback on Monday Night Football.
And man, I've never been a Geno Smith hater. Loved watching him in college. I thought he was a ton of fun at West Virginia and was a guy who was kind of surprised he flopped in the NFL, for being honest, because he was always super talented. But in college, at least. Yes, I know he's a system guy at West Virginia, the air raid, but good for him, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
That's got to feel really, really good to go in and beat Russell Wilson, and that was their Super Bowl. They're not going to have a higher peak than that this year, and I think that Seahawk fans, based on how loud the boos were for Russell Wilson to come out onto the field, I think they're okay with that.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy to me how people know Seattle's not going to have a good team, but that I don't know if it was the Russell Wilson effect, But how loud that stadium still is with a losing team is scary. I still wouldn't want to go to play in Seattle.
Oh,
If absolutely not. I'm good. We won there last year somehow, some way in the snow.
yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but it happened. But I wouldn't want to go to Seattle and play. They're gonna be bad, but I still would not want to go there.
Yeah, and also just before we move on, those are the worst uniforms in football. I don't care what anyone says. The highlighter yellow, greens, whatever they are, I think they are the worst uniforms in football.
I actually don't hate it, and that's not my color. It's not my color at all. But I don't hate them as crazy as it is.
You see, I don't think I would hate them if they did not wear them as often as they started to wear them.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like they used to do it maybe once a year, and at that point, it was one of those like, oh, these are all right. These are cool. I could see like getting excited for these once a year. But now it's just at the point where I feel like they're wearing them every third week, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
come on, like.
yeah.
But I digress. Before we wrap up the show here, we had to touch on something. It's Packer week. If we have another opportunity to dump on the city of Green Bay and a Green Bay legend, we're going to. It looks like Brett Favre is going to be locked away for most likely a very long time. And the looks like it's a lot worse than people anticipated with the messages that came out. Was it yesterday that they came out, or was it today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
where basically asking over text or whatever type of direct message that was, are you sure I won't get caught? Are you sure it's not going to matter? Dude, you're worth over $100 million. If you're just donate the money for the volleyball center, for the, like, if your daughter's playing there. Come on, man. Like, I know we know Brett Favre is a noted scumbag. Everyone knows that. But the Wrangler and the Copper Fit money, it can't be that bad if you're embezzling money from what is, off the top of my head, probably the poorest state or bottom two states in terms of GDP. Probably bottom two for sure.
It's number one.
It was, my guess was there, Kentucky. So yeah, that's just, it's a fucked up situation, and I guess you could say you're not surprised, right?
I have been sitting on this for 24 hours. And this was one of the main reasons why I couldn't wait to do this damn podcast. Because Brett Favre is worth $110 million. Brett Favre is one of the most beloved athletes in NFL history. Why? Because he played the game like a kid. He ran around the field with his helmet off, and he made all the throws that another person wouldn't have made. He was just so great for the game. Brett Favre's been a piece of shit for a very long time. I do have to go back to his Jet days where he sent a picture of his genitalia to Jen Sturgeon when she was working for the Jets.
I don't know.
And by the way, I'm very glad that she made a firestorm of tweets about him saying, oh, now text messages matter. But when it actually happened, it didn't. Because everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to protect him. She was unfortunately a victim of the pre-Me Too movie where stuff like this, it was acceptable. And the only reason why I would say it's acceptable because he did not face any type of consequences whatsoever. I am beyond sick of Brett Favre. I hope he gets locked away for a very long time. And think about how much of a horrible, horrible person you have to be to fraud the poorest state in America. You are worth $110 million. And you think this is the way. And the worst part is that he didn't even care that he was doing it.
Nope.
He was only caring if he got caught. And I tell you, it is just sickening to me that you have all these media outlets that waited to this moment in time to point out how horrible of a person Brett Favre is, because they want him to make appearances when Super Bowl week comes around, or when the Hall of Fame comes around. It is so just irritating to me. I have never been a Brett Favre fan. This isn't coming from a place of Bears bias or anything like that. But from deep down, in my honest opinion, Brett Favre is a piece of shit, and I hope he gets locked away for a very, very long time, because you had to be a real horrible, miserable, greedy ass person to do what he did. And I would need to have people to stop defending athletes like this, because they are not above any type of criticism or accountability. And I don't want to hear no cancel culture bullshit. This ain't cancel culture. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in accountability culture. And this, if you're not going to hold them accountable for this, then what are you going to hold anybody accountable for?
Yeah, and I know correct me if I'm wrong. I know he quote unquote paid the money back aside from interest at this point. That shouldn't matter.
It doesn't.
It shouldn't matter. And I'm sure he's going to get away with this under some technicality, because he'll have the best lawyer in the state of Mississippi, because you know for a fact every lawyer in that state is going to be lining up around the block to try and be the guy to represent Brett Favre against the state. And I'll never understand it, man. There's the athletes out there who do a lot of good with their money. And like Russell Wilson, a guy that we all like to dump on, but he's a damn good dude.
Yeah.
And people like making fun of him, but I don't think you're going to find anyone who's actually has a bad thing to say about him. You can't find a single person, I don't think, off of the football field, even if they're a fan of him on the field, who will say a good thing about Brett Favre, the person. And honestly, that's become one of my favorite things in sports, I think, is that people and social media in general, people have become more aware of who the athlete they're cheering for and watching are and have become. And I know that's a weird thing, because it's like, oh, like, don't ever meet your heroes. Not that athletes are everyone's heroes, but it was kind of an ignorance is bliss type of thing. But with how linked together, I guess everyone is because of the media nowadays, there's no hiding anymore. And it's a good thing. End of the day, it's a good thing, because if we weren't as all linked in together, all connected because of the internet and because of cell phones and everything, Brett Favre would have never been caught for this. Ever. Ever. And I don't know what's going to happen. If I had to guess, with my very, very little knowledge of the law, he won't go to prison. And it's fucked up that he won't. But it's Bears Packers week.
I will say this. If you are a person that can separate the person from the athlete, go right ahead. But always remember something. At the end of the day, they are the same person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's a wrestler where you can separate the character from the person, because at the end of the day, they're playing a character. Who the athlete you're cheering for is the person. Don't ever forget that. Just because somebody can make a couple of donations, say a couple of good things or whatnot, there is still that evil side to them, that if you are going to, not hold them accountable to own cancel culture or whatever and whatnot, you're enabling them to do far worse things that they're going to do anyway. And I need y'all to understand this, because when more and more bad shit they do happens, why are y'all surprised? This was happening. You just didn't want to see it. And this hero culture of, my hero can never do wrong to me. I don't know him personally. I just like what he does. I just like what she does. That doesn't apply in most of these situations. And honestly, it's a moral choice at the end of the day. If you don't see it as that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I think you hit the nail right on the head with that to wrap up the show. And if you made it this far, we appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show, leave us a comment. Hopefully when we're back next week, we'll be talking about a potentially wild card Chicago Bears off to a 2-0 start. But until then, we'll see you next time.